let's talk about Electro. So then we have Jamie Foxx as Electro. Oh wait, we should probably talk about Rhino's big scene at the end there. So then he finally gets the Rhino suit. We see it in all the commercials, all the advertising. They're like false advertising saying that he's a main villain. He is not. And that's a marketing issue that does not, I don't think, directly influence my final perspective on it, per se. I know I might sound hypocritical because of that, because I kind of maybe mentioned that in the Man of Steel review, but in retrospect, when I look back, I can't really blame the ads for Man of Steel, because they didn't really false advertise it. They made it kind of seem more like a constant action thing, but every superhero movie does that anymore. The Captain America ads for Captain America the Winter Soldier did that. The ones for this, the ads for X-Men Days of Future Past make it look like it's nothing but action. They want to draw the viewer in. So when they're false advertising here and making it look like Rhino is going to be a huge star in the movie, it's false advertising, but it's a marketing ploy, and that I don't think it should directly relate to your expectations. Therefore, it should not really fall into a category that says I'm going to blame this for why I didn't like the movie. It's something you can mention it as an annoyance, and it kind of was an annoyance when I figured out, oh, he's only going to be a small part. So I'm like, why is he? So in the trailers we're getting is like the Rhino stuff. Is this like all his footage, or does he have like 0 scenes left to be revealed in the movie? I don't know. And it turned out it was very close to that, actually. Once he got the Rhino suit on, though, and stuff, I was like, okay. I said, this is redemption. For the character. And as Paul Giamatti was in the suit, as Rhino, I said, that's better. I still didn't love it, and I have to admit, my expectations were still raised for the Rhino character, because I knew he was going to come back, and I was very confident, 100% confident he was going to have the suit by then, because we see it in the trailers. I'm like, they're not just going to, they have like almost like a full minute of footage of the big Rhino suit when you watch all the ads and put them together. It's almost like a full minute of just that Rhino suit. I was just like, okay, I'm very confident we're going to see the Rhino suit in the movie. So my expectations went back up, and as the villain, yes, that is much better. When he got the Rhino suit on, and when he wasn't driving around trucks and stuff, I was like, that's Rhino. That's better. The writers got him right. Now, we still had that silly, respect, that silly talk about him, Paul Giamatti did, but I don't know. It was an improvement. It kind of felt like it was along the same lines, actually, as Green Goblin. They're saying cheesy stuff, but in this case, it kind of fits. It kind of fits because, let's face it. When Batman is saying stuff, he's wearing a bat suit. In any other way, this, if you view it in a different method, you would be laughing at it very hard. This is a guy who's dressed up as a gigantic rhino. In any other context, you would be laughing at it. It sounds like a lame joke that Seth Rogen would put on in one of his movies. A guy that wants to be big and powerful, so what does he do? He makes himself a rhino suit. Yeah, that literally, in the context I just put it, if Seth Rogen or Jonah Hill, that group, had done that in a movie, like a Judd Apatow thing, people would be laughing at it. So in this case, when he's up in this big suit, and it does look badass, it does look like they constructed it and designed it very well. When they're saying that cheesy stuff, you still have to remember, we're talking about a guy in a rhino suit. Yeah, so that, it's not like I'm giving it a pass, necessarily. I still say, they could have made him, okay, this is a Russian mobster. He was shooting automatic machine guns at Spider-Man in the first scene there. Was he still kind of being cheesy? But yeah. But here it kind of fits because you have to remember that. And sometimes when Batman's doing like these big poetic speeches kind of in the Dark Knight Rises, in the Dark Knight trilogy, I still have to look back and say, that's a guy in a bat suit. And sometimes when he says, like with the big voice and stuff that he does, the voice or whatever, when he does that stuff, it kind of fits because you're talking about a guy in a bat suit. you're talking about a guy in a bat suit. All right, so yeah, I think that covers that pretty well. And as far as I can tell, they're going to bring Rhino back, so I'm kind of excited. Rhino's got a better future ahead of him. Hopefully, for God's sakes, they can't do that again with the opening scene there. All right, then we get to Electro. Let's get to Electro here. Jamie Foxx actually plays the part pretty well as Electro. Can't say the same for his part when he's just the regular Max Dillon guy. Oh, no. He went over the top. And I'll say over the top because all three villains, in a way, do go over the top with their villainous stuff, with their I'm a villain, evil chuckle stuff. All three of the villains kind of do that, in a way, through separate versions, we have the Rhino, at the end when he's doing his cheesy stuff. And then we have, Electro as Jamie Foxx, kind of doing like a over-the-top role-playing, if you will, where he's kind of talking to himself, getting ready for work one morning, and he's like talking one way, and then he's talking another way. I'm Spider-Man, and he's like doing that stuff, and I'm like, okay, that's a little over the, that's almost like a Jekyll and Hyde. You might want to see a therapist about that, Max. I'm kind of thinking that in the back of my head, and I was like, Jamie Foxx that means he's kind of having fun with this. And the same way with Rhino, and in the same way you say a guy who has electricity shooting through his body like constantly or whatever, and his body is he's basically an electricity generator. I mean, in any other context, it's a silly thing. So for them to show we're having fun kind of insinuates onto the audience in a way. And I'm not saying this again just to give it a pass. Because, in retrospect, I maybe should be giving this movie a negative review for the way it can't balance things, for the way it goes over the top, for the way it can't, it can't really express things entirely, the way it does kind of follow some superhero movie cliches and stuff like that, but it does have that kind of fun sensibility about it. The same way, and you cannot criticize, I'll bring up an example here, Raiders of the Lost Ark. You cannot possibly say that you don't have fun watching that movie. You cannot possibly say that and be truthful, and say, oh, Raiders of the Lost Ark, that was way too serious. No, it was a fun movie. The same way these Spider-Man movies are, nowadays especially. You have fun with them. Maybe you don't have fun in Spider-Man 3 because they're so glaringly off, and it does feel like Sam Raimi is just making it worse just to get you to squint away from the screen and say, okay, I don't want to be watching this movie anymore. Mark Webb, I think, is delivering a fun way to do it, and it's a different way of doing it. He doesn't want to do The Amazing Spider-Man again and literally do the same film, so he's trying something different. Maybe it doesn't work all the way, but at least he's trying something, so I have to give him credit for that, and I have to give the screenwriters who, in particular scenes, do not do well. In other scenes, they're not bad. But seriously, that scene with Rhino in the beginning, I thought, and I look back, and the scene that I always think of for the first Amazing Spider-Man movie was that carjacking scene where he's like shooting webs all over the villain. I was like, that scene just makes me angry. It was nothing compared to that Rhino scene. That was just god awful. That was god awful. Like that was a Batman and Robin moment. Oh, it shudder. I shudder at that. That was a Batman and Robin moment in that beginning there. But yeah, I'm getting off track here. I don't want this to go on way too long, so I'll wrap it up here once I get done talking about the villains because that's pretty much it. I mean, the rest of it I can kind of clear up in 5 seconds. So yeah. So yeah, as Max Dillon, he goes over the top and not in the same way that Paul Giamatti does in the end of the movie, but in a way that kind of sometimes kind of gets on your nerves, and you're just kind of like, okay. But then at the same time, we don't really get to know Max Dillon. Once he's Electro, he's Electro. He's not going back. And we don't really sympathize with him very much. We don't feel his pain, really. We kind of get the idea, instead of him being like a loner, that nobody cares for, Yeah, we do get that sensibility maybe in a couple of shots, but that's it. I mean, in all respect, that's like office bullying, pretty much. You know, the "oh, I'm superior, I'm over you," that people do sometimes in real life as a joke, but really here they do it in movies all the time. There's always, especially in movies that are set in comedy, set in office settings, there's always that big bully character. And there's a couple of those in the movie, and you just kind of feel like, that's like regular, like, movie characters would be used to this. So we don't really sympathize with him that much. We instead feel like he's a bit insane. We do feel he kind of has to have a better grip on reality. And if he doesn't, then that's it, So when he does go bad, we don't really feel it being very good. And in retrospect, you have to say it, but when Electro was doing his bad stuff, the reasoning for it really doesn't fit very well. It just doesn't flow for me. Sure, he looks cool and his powers are cool, and Fox has fun with the role, sure, but I just did not enjoy Electro in this movie. And frankly, I'm just not as interested in Electro. Yeah, sure, he can shoot lightning strikes. They don't really, until later on in the movie, they don't really threaten anybody. They don't really hurt anybody too much. Too bad. So yeah, I think I'm kind of running on low on time here, so I'm gonna move on. The highlight villain. Here we go. The Green Goblin. Dane DeHaan. This is kind of my introduction to him. I did not see Chronicle, and I kind of don't. Found footage for me. I'm just done with that. Even if people praise that movie, I'm still kind of turned off, and I don't really want to see that movie very much. So Dane DeHaan, I'd heard all this stuff. Yeah, he's a terrific up and coming actor. He was amazing in Chronicle. That's the reason he got this job. Whatever, all that. I was like, okay. So as Harry Osborn, we've seen Harry Osborn before, but not like this. This was a different take on it, and it was a better take on it, I feel. And in a way, the way his character comes out, and the way he does his stuff, and the way that the Gwen Stacy Peter Parker relationship worked, are the saving graces of the movie. They are, in a way, the Loki of Thor: The Dark World. They're the point that that when they're not on screen, you want to nap. The same with Thor: The Dark World. Whenever Thor is going on with his stuff and the villains are going on, you feel like you want to snooze. Here, no. Whenever Loki's on screen, you're awake. The same way here, when Electro's on screen, sometimes I kind of get that sensibility to snooze. When Peter's doing his secret discovery thing with his family, I kind of want to snooze a little bit. But when he's on screen with Gwen, that gets me excited, and that gets me, I feel like I want to get to know these characters more. And when he's on screen, Dane DeHaan, he brings an energy to it, a good energy to it. His career is kind of riding on this. Paul Giamatti, they're established, and Jamie Foxx, they're established stars. They can half-ass it if they want to, and nobody's really going to care. For this young kid, if he blows this, his career is over. So the way he puts way more work into it, this makes me want to say Best Supporting Actor material. And he's not gonna get a nomination. No way. But the way he filled that Green Goblin role with piss and fire and vigor, yes, that's the way to do it. I have to say, though, his relationship with Peter felt way more natural in this movie than it did in all the Spider-Man movies from Sam Raimi. That whole trilogy just felt like sometimes, oh, I'm your friend because I have to be, because I am. Here, we actually see a couple of scenes where they're talking. And they're talking like regular people. I said, there you go. That's how you do the relationship. There, that's it. Keep that. And that was good. That was very good. Very good. And there's a couple scenes where they're just talking and they're just having fun. I'm like, now I'm getting it. I said, that's it. That's it. I sympathize with Harry now. Because then he gets in a situation, kind of, sort of, where it's serious for him. And he needs, something, or he wants to do something for his safety. For him to continue living the way he's living. He has to do it, and you sympathize with him. You say, I want to see him survive. I want to see him as a good guy. And in the comics, yeah, Harry, for the most part, is a good guy, from what I've read. There's only a couple of times, when he does turn into Green Goblin or Hobgoblin or whatever it is, yeah, sure, that happens. But for the most part, he's considered an ally of Spider-Man in the majority. So when he does turn bad in the end, and he does turn into the Green Goblin, we do kind of sympathize with him a little bit. But as the Green Goblin, man, he brought an energy to this that this movie needed all the way through. If Green Goblin had been the main villain here, I think we would have had a very different movie. We would have had probably, potentially, a better movie. We wouldn't have gotten a couple of good scenes with him and Peter having a good, strong friendship building there, but still, you could have had that in the background, sure. You could have had it where, he's not Green Goblin, and where he's, his regular self. Sure, you could have done that, but yeah, once he's the Green Goblin, I said, yes, now we're talking. And there's a couple scenes where he's being his big villainy, he's over the top, but it's over the top in the best way possible. The same way that in The Dark Knight, that the Joker kind of went over the top. You have to admit, when he's cackling along and stuff, he's going a little over the top. But it's the best way that you want to go over the top. The same way with Ben Kingsley in Iron Man 3, when he was the actor or whatever, I was actually, really enjoying his character, even though he's not the Mandarin, and people really will be disappointed in that, and they were. I was thinking, he's got an energy to this. I'm excited for this character. Yep, same way here with Green Goblin. So I would love to see him come back. I'm not going to reveal whether or not they kill Green Goblin, but I will say that if he did come back, I would appreciate it very much. So yeah, and his end scene where he fights, and we see it in the preview there with Peter, that fight scene actually kind of got my heart beating a little bit. And even though I kind of had that second guess of what was going to come next, I was still like, good work. Keeping the suspense going there and keeping this fight actually pretty good. So yeah, that's about all I can say. The supporting cast, otherwise, we had Sally Field in there as Aunt May. She actually had a few really good scenes with Peter that were really, really well done. There was the whole thing with her, saying, you weren't clean, we don't have a chimney and stuff. That was kind of more in that lame Saturday morning cartoon special feel there. But still, there's enough positives to outweigh the negatives here. I feel like I've hit this enough. I give it a 6 out of 10. I do enjoy it. It's not one that I'm going to call the best, and it's not going to be a huge hit with me anyways in following years. Basically, the purpose of the sequel is to kind of build up for the next ones. The same way that all those pre-Avengers movies were doing. On their own basis, they would work. And on its own basis here, the film, for the most part, works. So yeah, it works, but with reservations. All right. I've went on well enough. And until next time, that's it.
It's good to be back.